To those who have been excluded by Christians, to those who have gone to church their whole life, and to those who are exploring, welcome. We hope that Oak Life Church can be a home for you. If you have been rejected by the church as a person of color, as a woman, as an LGBT person, as a non-Christian, or for any other reason, we're sorry for the way you were treated. We believe that God loves you, and we would be honored by your presence. We'll tell you a little about ourselves, and we hope we can journey together. We hope to love people the way Jesus does. We don't want to judge. We want marginalized people to be welcome here, and we are still improving as an inclusive place. We long for peace and justice on earth. We build this through community service, generosity, and activism. We value community, and we value building supportive relationships with each other. We love creativity, and we love the way God speaks to us through art. We don't claim to know the truth fully, but we seek to follow Jesus, and we seek to grow together. If these are things you connect to, come visit us. We hope you will share with us who you are and help shape our community. With much love, Oak Life Church.
step down into, open my eyes and peace. Beauty that made this heart adore, hope of a life spent with. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether love, altogether worth, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so high, glorious in heaven. Only you can do the earth to be, all for love's sake. Here I am to worship, here I am to love, here I am to sing that you're mine, you're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful too. Here I am to worship, here I am to love, here I am to sing that you're mine, you're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful too. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful too. Altogether wonderful too.
Morning, Oak Live. Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope you guys are doing well today, and I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend with friends and family and your loved ones. Today, I'm here to share the announcements with you. I'm a little chilly, so that's why I am hooded. Okay, it's been cold lately, and it's rough on my body when it's cold. Anyway, but to get to the announcement, I just want to remind everyone that, as we gather together in the theater, please make sure to wear your masks at all time, practice safe distancing, and if you are feeling under the weather or if you have any symptoms, feel free to join us online so that you can continue to stay connected with us. And also, enjoy the gift of community, and you can do it at your own space, at your own pace from home. Also, wanted to share about different ways that Oak Life can support you. We do have mental health resources available, and if that's something you need, you are more than welcome to log on to our website at oaklifechurch.com/mental health, and there are plenty of resources there for you. Also, a way that you can support Oak Life is through generosity. And if you are able and capable to donate, you can go to oaklifechurch.com/generosity. And if you want to continue to spread some of that generosity, we are doing an Oak Life 2021 gift exchange. You can sign up by November 22nd. Wait, that kind of passed. So are we still doing it? Are we still doing it? I don't know. But just in case, you can go to santawithmuscles.com. Okay? And then if you want to continue to stay connected with Oak Life Church family, we do have some events coming up that you can meet in person. There's December 5th, which is next week, Sunday. There is an after church in front of Red Bay Cafe at the Hive. This is a way for you to get connected and just hang out with folks. Also on Wednesday, December 8th, at 7 p.m. at the Telegraph Beer Garden. You can come and join folks and have a good time. All right. Now, we've just finished one holiday. Now we're going to the next one, which is Christmas. Yes. So on Christmas, for the Christmas holiday, we will be doing a Sunday Christmas service on December 19th at 10 a.m. And we will be doing a Wednesday day of an evening of caroling on Wednesday, December 23rd at 6 p.m. There's going to be caroling and cocoa at Lake Merritt Amphitheater. So please join us for that. Bring the kiddos. It's going to be a great time. And at this time, if we have any community announcements, please feel free to share that now. For
any community announcements?
Is it Wednesday or December 23rd is Thursday?
You're right, Thursday. Great catch.
All right.
Way to go. All right, sounds good.
you to stay updated on these announcements, please feel free to join our newsletter. You can do that by sending an email to Chris at oaklifechurch.com, or you can go over to oaklifechurch.com and scroll all the way down, and there's a sign up for newsletter thing there. All right, so let us prepare for some couch conversations. Have a great day, everybody.
doing anything for us, we can better do ourselves. We're gonna use what we got to get what we want. So you better think. Now you don't have respect. That's the thing I never will forget. Baby, I got a lot to live and a whole lot to live. Can't give it up. I gotta think. Future home for me. Too far ahead to see. I don't need no hardest. Can't stand no mystery. Let me think. It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out. All right. Just like living, sometimes it's kinda tough. If it's not in your vision, don't make no decision. When it comes to taking care of you, you may not call it true, but I want you loving, how you moving, I want you loving, how you moving, so bad, come on, baby,
This is your 1 minute warning.
Stared at it for like 30 seconds. She's like, I don't know. And then smiled like I don't have to. It was a good time for me. Little baby comes in. She's like a year and a half. She'll be 20 months. Great. She's so close to 2 already.
So tiny.
Yeah, about a week or 2. Crazy. Oh. That's
All right. Go ahead and finish up the last of your convos. Find your spot. Welcome, everybody. Am I hearing the Parkway House
You are.
music too?
I'm about to go do it right now.
Welcome, everybody. How was everyone's holiday week? How many people have a fridge full of leftovers? A couple people. How many people wish they had a fridge full of leftovers? Favorite holiday? I know, like, it's Thanksgiving. However we want to hold that holiday. I know there's a lot there, but favorite holiday food item? Let me hear a round of applause for the actual, like, proteins, the meats. Okay, a couple. Potatoes of some sort. Let's specify that a little bit. How about candy yams? Anybody? All right, here's all of them. Green beans? Is that a thing? Okay. Green bean casserole. We didn't have that, and my brother-in-law was like, kept bringing it up over and over. What else then? Stuffing? A couple. Anything else that I'm neglecting? Mashed potatoes? Okay. Mac and cheese? Yeah, mac and cheese should be there. Is that for mac and cheese? Way to go. We didn't have that. We should have had that. Well, welcome online. Welcome to you wherever you're at. Thanks for hanging with us this Sunday after Thanksgiving, first Sunday of Advent. Isn't it weird that Advent starts in November? It kind of feels like it's too close to Thanksgiving, but here we are. So a question, as we're kind of in between things. Do you imagine yourself in an in-between time? Do you like that feeling? So maybe you can picture traffic or a life stage of being in between here and there. Is that a feeling you like? Not really, right? Most of us, when we think of like the in-between phases of life, it's like, I want to get to the thing, I want to get to there, or I want to go back to the way it was. Maybe even this pandemic that we're in, this new iteration that we're in, it's an in-between moment where we're like, we're not quite out of it, and we can't go back, and we're kind of in limbo. I could do my whole sermon to their music. Looks like they cut it off. But and then I think it feels a little quiet here for the online folks. Get my mic up a little bit. As we enter Advent, this year we're going to look at it through the lens of the in-between. That Advent is a season of looking forward to the coming of Christ, looking back through our faith tradition and the stories, and trying to be present in the here and now. In my experience is many of us don't like the in-between moments. They're not comfortable. We want to get to the thing. We don't want the tension of it. But it's actually in the in-between of the world, the past and the future. It's the in-between the stages of life that life actually happens. Every moment we've ever lived happened in the in-between. So we're going to look at different characters from the scriptures, from the Advent stories that have an in-betweenness to them, which is all of them, and consider what that means for us in this time in history and our personal life. So today we're going to look at an in-between soul, an in-between person that is a bridge, so to speak, to a different era. So we're going to read from Mark 1. And we're going to read the first 8 verses of Mark 1. And what we like to do here is let the passage breathe for a little bit. So if there's like a word or a phrase or impression that's speaking to you, highlight it. If you're online, there's like a word or a phrase or a feeling, put it in the chats and we'll try to put it on the screen too. Mark 1 reads, the beginning of the good news about Jesus the Messiah, the Son of God. As it is written in Isaiah the prophet, I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way, a voice of one calling in the wilderness. Prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. And so John the Baptist appeared in the wilderness, preaching a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. The whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem went out to him. Confessing their sins, they were baptized by him in the Jordan River. John wore clothing made of camel's hair, with a leather belt around his waist, and he ate locusts and wild honey. And this was his message. After me comes the one more powerful than I, the straps of whose sandals I am not worthy to stoop down and untie. I will baptize you with water, but you will baptize with the Holy Spirit. Mark 1:1-3. Any words or phrases, quotes, impressions, feelings from this passage of Scripture? And feel free to raise your hand, or you can just say something if you want. I'll have my phone on for the online community, or just put up the comments behind me. Just make you think anything, make you ask me anything. It's not a super emotionally loaded passage. Maybe we've heard this before, but anything in this striking you in any way? Yes?
Voice of how calling in the wilderness, the idea of like going into the wilderness, like listening to God, so that's what calling is doing.
That's good, thank you. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, this theme of going into the wilderness and listening for God. It's a good book title, A Voice of One Calling in the Wilderness. Anything else? Any words or phrases? Yes, the wilderness, and the person from the wilderness that's saying, look, here's a problem. Yeah. Great. Yes, one more.
I think the part that says that in order to look at us and be able to share so it's not just us going
Preparing the way. They're preparing the way for us. It's good. We do this each week, even if we don't have, it's not striking a lot for us. This is like a discipline, and it puts a posture of we're in this together. The text is speaking, even though I have the microphone. We're co-learners, all of us. And there's been moments in our story as a church where somebody said something in the room that was way more significant than maybe what I said, and that was more important. And so we give space for the presence of God to speak in community, which is where my money is, where the magic happens. So thank you all for doing that with us this morning. So yes to all that. Any questions or promptings that are coming up? Yeah, there's one.
Oh, hold on.
Why did the way for Jesus need to be prepared? What does that mean? Ooh, fun question. Unfortunately, we won't be answering that one. If there's a question, you'll have to, we're preparing you for the answer. But keep digging. When questions come up, I think the questions are also the magic, because they lead you down the path of growth and exploration. So this is about John the Baptist. One of the things I've gotten in the habit of doing in preparing a sermon, if there's a character or a scene, I like to look at art, and especially non-Eurocentric art, because Jesus wasn't white. I don't know if you knew that, but he wasn't. He was not Norwegian. But what you see, and you look at art from different cultures and different people, is the way these stories get expressed and incarnated in different contexts. So here's a few pictures of John the Baptist that I was able to find this week, and some of them pretty compelling. This one, to my left, to your right, up in the corner, that really bright one, this is by Kehinde Wiley, who did the Obama's portraits. I don't know if you've seen that image. And this is St. John the Baptist, the one preparing the way. And I like it because it's so not what we picture for John the Baptist. And it's so uniquely beautiful and bright and compelling. This is a Korean artist named Woonbo Kim Chang, and it's just called Christ's Baptism by John. And then up above, a movie that included John the Baptist, and I included that one because I'm I kind of picture something similar, but it reminds us of the eccentricity that John the Baptist is supposed to hold. This is a person that in our culture, we wouldn't listen to, right? We'd say you need to take a shower and get a haircut before we give you the pulpit. This is somebody who's out on the fringe of society, maybe in our language, modern vernacular would say like is houseless, is without a home, and is wearing just whatever they have to wear. And it's this person, there's a lot to be said of John the Baptist, but this person seemed to be the in-between, the middle person, the preparing of the way for the presence of God. And I don't know exactly why that Jesus needed a preparer in advance, but it's in the story and it's worth considering. And so that's what I want to explore today, is the significance of the in-between people. The in-between people, the people that prepare the way for something else. So I want to talk about the stories of those people and the space of the in-between, what it's like to be in that space. So first, let's talk about the story of those people. John the Baptist is a person who, like I said, there's much intrigue about. There's even some scholarly debate over whether or not he and Jesus were religious competitors, right? They're supposed to be cousins, but they both started religious movements, so to speak, followings in their time. Was there competition? And you look to the scriptures, and there's some moments where the disciples are like, are you with John or are you with Jesus? And there's this interesting, there's lots to be said about John the Baptist that I think is fun. But what does it mean that this person prepared the way for the presence of God, was an in-between person that was declaring something new coming after them? It wasn't about them, it was about something beyond them. They were in between the past and the hope of the Messiah. We call these people nowadays transitional figures. There's some political discourse about our current president being a transitional figure, somebody who's, it's not really about them, it's about them like turning the corner in history. When you think about these sorts of people, some of them are acknowledged and named, but billions are unknown. And the reality is every single one of us stands on the shoulders of in-between people who, it wasn't about them, but because of them, we're here. Every single one of us, whether it's just our parents who carried us for a time, who maybe don't get as much acknowledgement as they should, or those who are laborers, who are picking our food, who are taking out our trash, who are holding up society. These are the in-between people. And these somehow are the people that God comes through. And all of us stand on the shoulders of somebody who's an in-between person, who prepared the way for us. There is no autonomous, independent person. We are all connected. And so what does it mean that this person's celebrated in the story? Later on in the Gospels, Jesus says of John, of humanity, there is none greater than John. What does it mean for us to see the in-between people of our world as the people who birth the presence of goodness and God in our life and are used by God in a preferential, unique way? We like to look to those who get the attention, but in reality, there's something divine and sacred about the in-between people who may not get the recognition, and especially those who are silenced or forced to be in between people whose shoulders we're standing on, and it wasn't a consensual thing. We have to dig up those stories, redeem them, honor them. That's one of the reasons I think it's important around Thanksgiving time to remember the complexity of America and those in-between people that we've silenced, whether it's because of gender or history or tribe or colonialism and conquest. Who are the in-between people in your life whose shoulders we're standing on, whose life we owe some recognition to? Who are the in-between people carrying us? And then the other question is, how can we be in-between people where it's not about us, but in this moment, we can create a different future? And who knows the ripple that our life will have, even if we never get credit. I was thinking about this recently as a parent. There's a lot of in-between time. And one of the in-between moments is in the middle of the night when the kids are waking up and it's like hard. And I would never say it's not good, but parenting is really hard. And especially in this era, we all have our own unique struggles. Just sharing vulnerably, one of the struggles, the good, the challenging struggle is parenting. And it's partly because we have two kids, and when they get sick at the same time, you don't sleep for weeks on end, literally. And there's moments where you just fall asleep and you wake up to crying. You try to get in there before the other kid wakes up, and you're holding one of the kids, trying to console them to sleep. And you're like, I just want this time. I want the morning to come. I want to get through this season. I want to get past the sickness. And I've had these moments, I feel like from God, in those like quiet, in between, anonymous, non-glamorous moments, holding our child and be like, actually, this is the time I'm going to miss. I'll look back on this really hard in-between moment and think, well, that was it. Like I'll never go back to that. It'll have come and gone. Often, life is like that. You have these in between, monotonous or challenging or uncomfortable seasons, times, and we just want to get past them. We just look to the next thing, or we want to go back to the time before. But I think as much as we're expecting the next, Advent invites us to be present in the here and now and not miss it, because that's how the future is created. And in a very real sense, like those moments are birthing the future in my life. I think the moments that we all live in, the in-between times, are birthing new life and new reality and have a ripple beyond what we know. And so John the Baptist, an in-between person, an in-between figure, a transitional figure. How do we not overlook these people in our world? And how do we become in-between people who are vessels for the next? I know a lot of my friends have struggled with the sense that like my life didn't amount to much. Like I'm not doing anything important. And I think actually that's not true at all. That first of all, there's never a human soul that is without immense eternal worth. And every act of love and goodwill towards another human being has eternal significance on an infinite scale. I'm convinced of that. Anytime you bring love and light to the world, it has a ripple effect. And who knows where that ripple goes? Even if it feels like it's unrecognized, it is not. How can we live into that reality, that good news of the in-between people? So that's the people. I want to talk about the space, the in-between space. This space of being in between is something we don't celebrate, but is so dang sacred and so has so much potential because it's where new things are birthed. I'm going to show you a picture of a place in Palestine called Tantor Ecumenical Institute. I believe that's the name. This is a facility. If you look, I can't look at. Well, I'll talk through it. There, you can see a wall on the top of this image. That's the wall that separates Palestine and really Bethlehem from Israel. And that wall is an apartheid wall dividing people, keeping a demographic, a certain group of people, I would say, this is my words, oppressed. And this institute is run by the Catholic Church, and the word ecumenical is supposed to mean like celebrating diversity and have lots of people's perspective and voice at the table, building bridges, reconciling, those sorts of things. And a few years ago, I got to study here for a week and got to take some classes from various people on both sides of this very contentious binary, right? We're in between Israel and Palestine, largely on the Palestinian side, largely Muslim, but also many Christians, true story. And on the Israeli side, largely Jewish. And the invitation we kept hearing was like, hey, the Christians missed an opportunity here, right? We need an in-between people. We need a bridge between us. The invitation is you all could be the ones that bring some reconciliation. And we heard from rabbis who were against the settlement. We heard from Arab Christians and Muslims, all kind of sharing the same thing. This is bad. And we need some folks in the middle. There's lots of work to be done on a geopolitical level, but on an interpersonal space, we need in-between people. And I think I'm going to share kind of my assessment of it. The church missed it. We largely sided with the powerful and those who support our own way of life here and for many reasons. And so we've largely sided with Israel, by and large, as the American church. And there are lots who would be critical of Israel, and I think healthy critique is good. Because when we are in between people, we are trying to enter into that space, we are attempting to break down the binaries, to break down the duality, the us and them opposing sides, and hold it in tension. But when we do that, as Jesus followers, the call is to see it through a preferential lens of those on the margins. That we follow the Beatitudes, where the last become first. That just as Jesus incarnated as a marginalized person on the fringe of empire, we have to start there and see those who are in our world have been silenced, who have been marginalized, who have been oppressed. And we do want to bring unity and healing and reconciliation to humanity, but it has to start with balancing things out and speaking truth to power and centering those who have been marginalized. And that's what you see in John the Baptist. As somebody who was on the fringe of society, was literally like out in the sticks, starting a movement, but also spoke truth to power at the upper echelons and gave his life for it, called out corruption. What does it mean to be in between people geopolitically, but not just there, interpersonally? How do we bridge these gaps? As Christ followers, I think there's a leaning and invitation to start with those who have been marginalized, victimized, hurt, but not dehumanize everybody else and hold that tension. And it's hard. It is much easier to pick a side. It is much easier to have your tribe. You're the good guys, they're the bad guys. But I think as Christ followers, the invitation is to see that those things are actually false binaries. They're used as tools of oppression and control, and we call them out, seeking to be people of the middle, in between, holding it somehow in love and grace. This is a radical ethic of being in between. And each of us will have a different space that we hold, a different starting point in culture. And again, I think I can't emphasize enough the preferential leaning to start with those who have been centered. We have a God who came on the margins to bring healing to all of humanity. And so there's a divine sacredness, somewhat redundant. There's a sacredness to starting there and looking for God on the margins and then bringing healing to the whole. So this is a deeply transformative space, a challenging space to be people of the middle. Because it's not just the here right now, but it's also the future and the past. Right? We have a tendency as people to be stuck in the future or to look at the glory days in the past. And in this pandemic season that we're in, I think there's a huge tendency to just want to get this thing done and miss out on the opportunity of the life that's being birthed here in the middle. One teacher says it like this about this liminal in-between space. On the screen. Where we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone is our world, our old world left behind. While we are not yet sure of the new existence, that's a good space where genuine newness can begin. Get there often and stay as long as you can by whatever means possible. This is the sacred space where the old world is able to fall apart and a bigger world is revealed. If we don't encounter liminal space in our lives, we will start idealizing normalcy. The invitation of Advent in this in-between season is to live into the already, but not yet. God is moving, God is coming, the Christ is doing stuff in our world. God's presence is moving, but it's not there yet, and we can't just settle. We have to look forward and be present in this in-between time, to hold that tension. So where are you in an in-between moment, between life stages, between statuses, relationship status, between health status, between work status, between faith stuff, figuring out where you are, you're unsettled? I would encourage you to know that that's a sacred space, that Advent is an invitation to look forward, but also be present and notice this in-betweenness, where you are between two worlds. One more story, just a moment of transparency. I had a really bummer day on Thursday. Not Thursday. Thursday was the holiday. Friday, day after. Maybe it's like some of the emotional stimulation of seeing family, and then the crash and sleeplessness and all that stuff, and not eating great food, drinking too much the night before. But it could be something else. It could be more existential. And I was really wrestling. Was we're getting ready for Advent, I was looking at pictures of Oak Life. And I found this video of Christmas here about 3 years ago. And it was like standing room only. There were 140 people in the room, something like that, I don't know. And we're all holding candles and singing Silent Night. And I missed it. It was like, oh, the before times. Like, oh, I miss that person, I miss that person. I miss that feeling of togetherness, the sacredness of that time. And at the same time, right, there's this news of a variant, right? And it's this heaviness. I heard one scientist call it a pandemic gut punch. Like, all right, here we go again. What are we going to do? And I found myself just wanting to either go back or wanting to get it over with. How long is this going to go on? What are we going to do? And often, one of the gifts, I think one of the things I've learned to really receive as a gift and getting to prepare sermons is that I get to, like, my focus is to think about this stuff. And often the stuff that we're wrestling with as a community is like what God is speaking to us somehow, and even to me in a moment. And like, I think whenever we provide space for God to speak, we reflect on our scripture or songs, whatever, it helps us get there. God was like, yeah, you're in between. That's what you're talking about on Sunday. And this is a sacred space. And we don't know what tomorrow is. We just don't. But there is a hope of the in-between people, the in-between space, in-between story, that this is not the end. But it's in this moment, we don't want to miss it. There's something rich here. It's like I was holding my kid. This is a moment. These are the times that I'm going to look back on with fondness. Like, and we have this impulse to bury your head in the sand or drown out this moment until it's all over. And we miss the sacred in between, which I think is an invitation for all of us this Advent. And so some closing questions for us to consider. Where are you in between? Where is there in-betweenness in your life? Have you avoided it? Have you been reluctant to sense that, feel that, experience that? What if that was actually sacred space where God is growing, moving, transforming, birthing something new? Second question, how can we be people who celebrate and honor the in-between people? How can we be people who acknowledge all those nameless, creditless folks whose shoulders we stand on, whether it's entire people groups, whether it's entire genders, whether it's the person down the street that we know is there, but we've avoided making eye contact? How do we acknowledge the humanity, the divinity of the in-between people? And finally, how can we become people who enter into the in-between with hope? We lit the candle of hope. And I said earlier, in the game of being in between people, the call of Christ is to start in the margins. In the game of in between chronologically, past and present, the invitation for Christians is to be people of hope. Hope that ultimately love wins. Hope that ultimately these things, our current struggles, are not the end of the story. There are places where God shows up and moves and redeems, but there is a destination of goodness that we're moving to. How do we hold hope in the in-between the past and the future? How can we be people of in-between with hope? Would you pray with me as we let these thoughts sink in? I'm going to start the moment of silence, and I would encourage you to just open your spirit, your heart, your mind to God. God, will you speak to us in this season of in-between? God, may we be people who hold space, who hold the tension in grace and love. And when it's hard to hold, would you give us strength and courage? Would you give us community to support one another? May we be people who hold the tension of all of the us and them binaries in our world, that hold the tension with hope, the past and what was and what will be. May we be present enough in the here and now to allow your love to flow through us. May we become doorways which open up so that others may find rest, comfort, healing, and life. May we become bridges which reconcile and reunite. God, in this time of looking forward to Christ's coming yet again, use this in-between time. Make us like you in your love. Pray this all in your Son's name, in Christ's name. Amen.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. Oh, what foretaste glory divine, heir of salvation, purchased of God, born of His Spirit, washed in His blood. This is our story. This is our song, praising our Savior all the day long. This is our story. This is our song, praising our Savior all the day long. Perfect submission, perfect delight, visions of rapture now burst in our sight. Angels descend from above, echoes of mercy, whispers of love. This is our story. This is our song, praising our Savior all the day long. This is our story. This is our song, praising our Savior all the day long. Perfect obedience, all is at rest. I am my Savior, and happy am watching and waiting, looking up with His goodness, resting in His love. This is our story. This is our song, praising our Savior all the day long. This is our story. This is our song, praising our Savior all the day long. Praising our Savior all the day long.
On the night that Jesus was betrayed, he was with his friends in a very in-between time. Tension, uncertainty in the room with his people. And he gathers them and holds their attention and takes the bread and says, "Friends, this is my body broken for you." In the same way, he takes the cup and shares it in some form and looks around in the room and makes eye contact, is there in presence, says, "This is my blood shed as a sign of a new way, a new reality, a new covenant." And every time we eat and drink of this cup and this bread, we remember, we look forward to the next coming of Christ in our life, in our midst, and we live in that tension. May the grace of God nourish us, give us what we need in this season. May we remember God's presence with us. We'd invite you to, in this season, to either take a communion cup and have a moment with God at some point today, or make your next meal sacramental. Or if you're at home, the next thing you eat, would you consider the love of God as expressed in communion? Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, online and in person. We're in this together. And as we close out this time and continue our Advent journey, would you join us in a benediction, a send-off prayer, as you are willing or able or comfortable? God of love, in this in-between season, may we seek your kingdom even still. Where there is uncertainty, may we sow faith. Where there is isolation, may we sow solidarity. Where there is division, may we sow reconciliation. No matter what happens, may we take heart in the hope and love of Christ, which bears all, heals all, and overcomes all. Be with us now as we go forth to love and serve the world in person from a distance. Amen. Have a great Sunday, everybody. Thanks for being here.